When I was a kid, Mom would hang my drawings on the fridge. When I was teen, Dad would hang my drawings on the fridge. And on the walls, and on the ceiling, and on the windows. One of my first core memories was of my mom excitedly putting one of my drawings from school on the fridge. It was one of those typical stickman family drawings that all kids do at some point. Yet, despite the mundanity of it, she was ecstatic. If her goal was to give me some sort of confidence, I guess it worked, because I spent the next 12 years drawing almost every day. Every year in art class, the teachers would normally have 2 or 3 projects where they would get you to make something for your parents as a gift. Dad was gone most nights, meaning I never got to spend quality time with him. So most, if not all of my projects were made specifically for my mom. I'm not kidding when I say she would put anything I gave her on the fridge. By the time I was 10, there was so many it got to the point we ended up running out of space and couldn't find strong enough magnets to keep all the papers from falling off. Want to guess what my mom's solution to this was? That's right, buy another fridge. The new fridge went in the garage and held all of my older drawings since she wanted to keep my newer stuff on display in the kitchen for everyone to see. I remember being confused about why we needed 2 refrigerators when we could put the old stuff in a box or a drawer, but my dad liked the idea, so I never thought much more of it. Little did I know at the time, he was only okay with it because it meant he had more room to store his beer and hide snacks he didn't want me eating on him. He told me I was banned from using the garage fridge until I turned 19, half joking that it was so I could be old enough to replace any beer that I'd inevitably drink without his permission. My dad didn't teach me much, but when he did, it stuck. I followed that rule like it was gospel. Whenever I had friends try to convince me to take a couple of his dozens of bottles and cans, I always refused. Even if he wasn't around much, I loved my dad and always listened to what he said. He rarely yelled and never hit me, but there was still a threatening aura around him whenever he was upset, and no one, including my mom, would argue with him. Mom always said that Dad knew best, and he usually did. Life was a breeze if you did exactly as Dad requested. His sports were the only thing that I'd witness him get truly angry over. When I was 12, we ended up moving to a new neighborhood after my dad got into a heated argument with our elderly neighbor beside us. Later that night, I was woken up by my mom to a loud commotion and flashing lights peeking in through my curtains. She got me dressed and brought me downstairs where we sat watching late-night cartoons until my dad came back inside. He told my mom that the old man he was arguing with earlier had died from a heart attack. My mom drove me to my grandparents for the night, while my dad stayed behind at the house. That single night turned into a week of no school while my parents found a new place for us to live. They wouldn't tell me why we had to move, but part of me knew it was because of our neighbor. When we got to the new house, I was allowed to pick my own room, so obviously I chose the biggest bedroom with no confrontation from my parents. In hindsight, I knew it was because they had started sleeping in separate rooms. This didn't concern me at the time because they still kissed each other, they still hugged, and professed their love for each other every day. I never saw them argue about anything other than what they wanted to get for dinner on the weekends. Eventually, I got used to it and just thought it was a normal thing all adults do as they get older. I had to change schools when we moved, so I was all alone with no friends in a new place. I didn't take the change well, so my mom made sure to give me extra attention whenever I got home from school. She never said it outright, but I knew she knew. Things started to get a bit better after I met this cute girl in my grade. I can't seem to remember her name, but I do remember having the biggest crush on her for a while, but I was too shy to talk to her. One day when we were picking partners for a group assignment, she came up to me on her own accord to ask me if I wanted to be her partner. Of course I said yes. She was my first and only friend in this new place. Our parents became quick friends too, bringing us to each other's houses on weekends to have barbecues or just to visit. We'd run along the creek in the woods behind my house playing Pirate and the Princess, pretending the creek was the sea and that the ground on either side were opposing island kingdoms. She always wanted to play outside, especially by the creek or anywhere with water. During the summer, we went to the beach a lot where we'd swim until the sun went down, eating campfire hot dogs and marshmallows. In the winter, she taught me to skate and the best places to go sledding after a fresh snowfall. I had never been happier, and soon enough, I had forgotten about all my worries. When I was 14, my mom was diagnosed with a degenerative disease. She couldn't work anymore, meaning I wouldn't see my dad awake very long for days at a time. Most nights when he came home, he would help get Mom settled in bed after giving her a bath, then go straight to bed himself. He ended up moving his mattress into her room, right next to her bed. He never wanted to be too far from her. Occasionally, Dad would get sent home early from work, so Mom and I got to spend more time with him on those days, even though I could tell he'd rather be in bed. On one of those rare nights, Mom had to keep nudging Dad awake on our first trip back to the movie theaters since her diagnosis. Dad and I would spend all of our free time with Mom, especially since she needed help with almost everything nowadays, which meant I couldn't hang out with my only best friend anymore. When our parents did meet up, it never lasted very long. Mom's social battery depleted a lot faster on those days, not even able to keep her signature smile on for more than a couple of hours before she needed to rest. Despite the circumstances, Mom still put all the art I made for her on the fridge. I started drawing a lot more after her diagnosis. In fact, I drew so much so that we completely covered the deep freezer, Dad's garage fridge, my mom's bedroom mini fridge, and the kitchen fridge with my art. I suggested framing the ones she liked the most and hanging them up around the house, but she just laughed, saying that every inch of the walls would be covered in my art if we did that. She didn't want people thinking she went crazy already. The day I turned 16 was the last time my friend came to visit with her parents. We decided to take the trail in my backyard to the creek we used to call the Seven Seas. During the walk, she introduced me to my first joint, and we got stoned by the water. She made laugh harder than I've laughed in a long time, and life almost felt normal again. When the sun disappeared behind the trees, I gave her my jacket as a cool autumn breeze brought us closer together. She laid her head on my shoulder, and when I turned to ask her a dumb question like, why do leaves fall, she shut me up with a kiss. Our foreheads touched, nose to nose, and we giggled incessantly until the moonlight shimmered in the creek. She whispered that she made something for me. She said it was like a lucky charm, that it would protect me as long as I kept it on me and thought of her. It was a small crocheted doll dressed as a pirate with a fancy mustache made of what looked like tufts of my hair. I didn't question her. I just looked into her eyes, and she reassured me everything would be okay. Kissing me on the cheek before standing up with my hand in hers, she led me back to my place, where she tried to give me my jacket back, but I said she should keep it and just give it back when I see her next. So she did. Our parents said their goodbyes, and we hugged each other one last time. I could see her sob as she waved goodbye through the rear windshield, and I cried too. It wasn't goodbye forever, but it felt like it. I gave the charm to my mom that night and told her it would protect her. All she needed to do was think of me. The next morning was too quiet. It was a dull, overcast day with a seemingly permanent fog that painted my room in a brackish hue. I shuffled myself towards the kitchen to make food, but noticed my dad softly crying in the living room. I changed course for the living room, turning the corner where I could now see he was crying into bloody hands. Without a second thought, I sprinted to my mom's room, throwing the door open to see Mom laying peacefully in her bed. I thought I saw someone peeping in through her window from the corner of my eye, so it took me a second to notice Mom's bloody eyes, bloodied lips, and all the viscera pooling around her head, soaking into the pillow and sheets. At first, I shook her softly, then violently as she continued to not respond. I grabbed the clasped hands sitting on her chest, holding them to my lips as I prayed to a god I didn't know. In her hands was the little pirate charm. I knew she was thinking of me when she died. I didn't get to see the girl for a long time. I kept the pirate on a keychain dangling from my rearview mirror. At some point, I decided I wouldn't rely on luck, so now it was just a reminder of better days that were long behind me. After months of investigation and all the wasted trials, they couldn't prove my dad guilty. It didn't feel like a win because he was already broken. He lost his jobs almost immediately, having to go on government assistance to keep the lights on. I worked 2 jobs under the table and helped my dad as best I could during his prosecution. I didn't think he killed Mom like everyone else. The cause of death was bizarre for her condition, and under most circumstances wouldn't occur naturally. Luckily for us, that wasn't strong enough evidence to convince a jury, especially after they saw the state Dad was in. I would catch him sleepwalking every night, and he was always standing in front of the fridge when I found him. I'd wake him up, and he'd tell me he dreamed of Mom, showing him every new drawing she hung on the fridge before being swept away by water and pulled into the deep sea. Miraculously, I was able to graduate high school even while working 2 jobs and making sure my dad remembered to eat food between his bouts of night terrors. A week into college, I came home to find a delivery driver attempting to drop off 3 brand new refrigerators, which I sent back. I asked my dad about it, but he got angry with me for the first time in years, rambling about how Mom would be upset if she doesn't have places to hang my pictures. I stopped drawing when Mom died, but somehow Dad found piles of old drawings that younger me considered not good enough for the fridge. I was more focused on school now and ended up reconnecting with the princess of the creek. She said she noticed the pirate in my windshield and wanted to see me again. We go to